What do you need to be doing to be successful in the never too early FFPC Best Ball Tournament? How do we handle the Chargers with Mike McDaniel now calling the shots in Los Angeles? And what do we make of Tyreek Hill in the 10th round of the FFPC never too early Best Ball Tournaments at the moment? Plus, a guy who did his first ever FFPC Best Ball Tournament, first ever Best Ball draft anywhere for fantasy football, ends up winning the entire Pros versus Joes challenge. He's here to tell us about it tonight. Rob Tomasino joins us as your co-host. We've got a great show for you. Rob Tomasino is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics and Farrelliacs. Welcome into the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. That's MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is normally the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Farrell Elliott. He is actually on assignment this week, taking in the action at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. So he will rejoin us again next week, tell you what's going on with the FFPC podcast coming up. It's a big week next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll tell you what's going on with that at the end of the program. Coming up on tonight's show, we are going to discuss Brian Daboll in Nashville and what he does for the Titans. We'll also be talking about Marvin Harrison and whether you should be believing in him this year. And we'll also talk with the 2025 FFPC Pros versus Joes overall champion. Rob Tomasino is going to join us to tell us how he had never drafted a best ball team before, and the team that he drafted ends up going essentially wire to wire in the Pros versus Joes challenge, as he not only banks the free main event entry next year, but he gets the Fantasy Mojo championship belt. Pretty unbelievable story, and Rob's going to tell that to us tonight in just the next couple of minutes. I want to let everybody know you can connect with us on X at HSFF Hour, at Eric Balkman, and of course check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Post on the Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFFR. You can email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. So if you have any questions for us, for Rob, now's the time to get them in. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, X posts, and emails coming up in the fantasy feedback segment later on in the show. Thanks to our audio engineer and my best friend Bryce, and of course our producer and mutual friend Rob. A lot going on at the FFPC right now, ladies and gentlemen. We have a ton of dynasty orphans that you can pick up right now. MyFFPC.com. These leagues normally start off at $77. They go up to $5,000, but right now we have teams for as little as $1 going on at MyFFPC.com. Take that next step into fantasy glory. Play fantasy football 365 days a year. MyFFPC.com. Pick up those dynasty orphans today. I mentioned at the top, we also have the Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament going on right now. It's a $125 entry, but you can win a $40,000 grand prize. Same thing with the Superflex tournament. The Never Too Early tournament for that is $35 to enter. You can still win a $10,000 grand prize. Those tournaments have already been going on for the last week plus. They will stop at the NFL draft coming up in late April. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. Take your home run swings in those tournaments for sure. Now, speaking of home runs, we added another gorilla tournament this year. Obviously, the Big Gorilla is going on right now. $350 entry, $1 million grand prize. The 7 Bananas promo is back. The early Rampage tournament is back. $25,000 grand prize there. The FFPC Baby Gorilla is also live. So if you've never played high stakes before, you always wanted to play FFPC, this is a good way to, you're talking about what, a third roughly of the entry fee of the Big Gorilla. You can get into the Baby Gorilla and still win $100,000. So a good foray into to High Stakes Fantasy Football. If you or you know somebody who's never tried it before and wants to have that thrill, that action, that sweat, myffpc.com, sign up for the Big Gorilla right now. Also want to bring up too the KFFSC Super Sunday Draft. Are all full except for one, the I Want Vegas. It drafts at 3:15 p.m. Eastern time on Big Game Sunday. Now that draft right now, as I look at it right now, we have 3 teams left in that. It is open. You don't have to be there for it. You can draft from your phone or from your mobile device, tablet, computer, whatever you want. You'll be able to draft that team. You don't have to be in Kentucky with us for the big game party. So check that out, kffsc.com. 3 spots left in that, kffsc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. Time to bring in my co-host tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You know him from his appearance on this show, brief appearance on this show, back in the summer of 2025 when he came on to tell us he had never done a best ball draft before. He had done managed leagues, played managed leagues for years, never done a best ball draft before. And he came on to tell us all about it. And how did that draft turn out? Well, not only did this guy win his individual league and the $2,000, $2,200 FFPC main event entry that came with it, he also beat all other 83 pros and Joes in the competition last year to secure the overall title in the 2025 Pros versus Joes tournament. Please welcome onto the show, Mr. Rob Tomasino. Rob, good Wednesday evening to you. Thanks so much for hanging out tonight. Congratulations on the big win.
Thanks, Eric. Really appreciate it. I'm thrilled to be here. If I had a bucket list, co-hosting a fantasy football show would definitely be on it. So
check it off. Check it off your list tonight, Rob, because we're gonna have a blast for sure. Now, am I looking in the background for those of everybody who's watching this on YouTube? Am I seeing the championship belt from the Pros vs. Joes? You have it displayed on your wall.
There it is. My friend
fantastic.
Ross from the office helped me put it up yesterday because I would have had trouble by myself. But he did a good job. And, it's an awesome belt. Really cool.
It is. A Fantasy Mojo curates those every year. So shout out to Darren Armani. By the way, anytime we cite ADP or any data on the show, FFPC data, fantasymojo.com at Fantasy Mojo Next, the godfather of the Pros versus Joes tournament. Highly recommend you get a subscription to Darren Armani's website. So if you're playing an FFPC tournament or league. Now, I should ask you at the top, Rob, I'm not sure if we brought this up last time you were on. What are you doing for a living when you're not winning the Pros versus Joes?
So in my office right now, I work for a great company, Edge Electronics. We're a certified woman-owned business. We distribute electronic components and displays and memory.
Got it. Okay, perfect. And you've been doing that a while, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my whole career basically with 2 companies, but I've been here for 20 years.
Good for you. Good for you.
Very fortunate. Very fortunate. Great owner.
I'm glad to hear that for sure. So we have to get into this, and we talked about this the last time you were on. You have done a bunch of managed leagues before with waivers, lineup submissions, so on and so forth. That's old hat to you. Best ball was something you had never done before, where you don't have to draft or you don't have to set a lineup. You don't have to make waiver claims throughout the week. Can you give us an idea on the prep that you did for doing this best ball draft? The prep that you did and sort of how it paid off for you in the end, that you ended up winning the whole thing.
Yeah. So what was interesting is I'm a hardcore football guy during football season. Okay. But when, in the summer, the spring, I golf, I do other things. So I really don't typically get into the fantasy football mindset until the mid-August timeframe. Mm-hmm. But when you guys reached out and I was fortunate enough to get this free opportunity, obviously I had to cram a little bit and I had to ask questions about best ball. I mean, I've heard of it, but I never really put a lot of thought into it. So I started to talk. My nephews are big into it and they're younger. And I think best ball really is more of the younger generation, although now everybody's doing it. I spoke to a guy that I see every morning in the bagel store who does a lot of drafts. And I just took some advice from them. And to be honest with you, when I did the draft, I thought about some of the things they told me, like stacking, balance, knowing how many guys to pick at each position. I thought about those things, and the draft was kind of difficult for two reasons, because one, I wasn't really as prepared as I normally am, but two, you guys interviewed me during my first two or three picks.
Right.
And that was like a fire drill. I mean, that's like getting shot at while you're making picks. So I guess maybe the next time I do a draft, I'll ask you to come on and interview me again while I'm doing it.
We got to keep up. We got to keep up the streak. We got to do everything the same, especially if you get invited back. If you end up being drawn in the Pros versus Joe's lottery again next year. By the way, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
Does the defending champ get a free invite?
He does not. Although I have fought for this. I have fought for this in the past. I've always been denied by the powers that be, but I have fought for this in the past. I will continue to fight for you, Rob. You were drafting from the 11 spot in this draft.
Yeah.
And when we were interviewing you, you ended up taking, you said it was rounds 1 and 2.
Yeah, it was very early on. It was like maybe 2, 3 in that range.
Okay.
But it was definitely early on.
So here's what it was. So you were drafting 11th. So it was either early on where you took Puka Nacua at 111 and Devon Achane at 202, or it was at the 3-4 turn when you took James Cook at 311 and Marvin Harrison at the 402. If it was in the first 2 rounds, you're welcome to get Nacua and Achane on the team. If it was rounds 3 and 4 where you got James Cook and Marvin Harrison, lo siento. Very sorry that we ended up talking to you while you ended up taking Marvin Harrison, but it all worked out in the wash. You had some really good picks in this draft that helped you out. I think about Wan'Dale Robinson in round 11, Ramondre Stevenson, round 12. Congratulations on that one. Matthew Stafford, you got in the 14th round. Rico Dowdle in round 16. And then Dalton Schultz. Say what you will about Dalton Schultz, but he was a 20th round pick for you as your 4th tight end. You made it work, man. And I'll say this too. 3 quarterbacks you drafted, Mahomes, Stafford, and Russell Wilson. Only one of those guys was alive towards the end of the season, and he came through.
Right. And I think probably the smartest thing I did being new to this is I got the balance right. I knew that I was weak at tight end, so I drafted an extra one in 4 of them, which kind of prevented that from being a weakness, when you get to use the best score every week. And then I know that a lot of people only take 2 quarterbacks, and I just couldn't live with that because quarterbacks get hurt a lot. And I said, I got to take at least 3. And even though Russell Wilson was kind of like not having a third guy, he actually got in there for a couple of weeks because he had some good scores early on, specifically the game against Dallas. Having him and Wan'Dale Robinson as a stack was huge that week.
So, yeah, absolutely it was 100%. And I'm looking at the standings right now, Rob. You ended up winning Pros versus Joes. And like normally it's not this big, but you ended up winning. Oh, God, I just had this up here. You ended up winning. You had 2,708 points and change. Matt Schauf, who was the next closest person out of these 84 teams, he ended up finishing about 140 plus points behind you. So you had, this, I wouldn't say locked up, but you had this thing, man, for a while. And I look at the rest of the people in this league. In your league, Rob, you had Davis Maddock, who finished 3rd overall, 2nd in his league. He finishes 3rd overall. He was in your division, or he was obviously in your league. You also had Blair Andrews from RotoViz and Brian Drake from Fantasy Points finished 9th and 10th respectively. This was the only league that had 4 teams in the top 10 overall for the entire Pros versus Joe. So not only did you vanquish all these other teams, it was an uphill climb fighting off those other top 3 teams in that league all season.
Yeah, and the one name you brought up specifically, Davis Maddock, when I drafted and then I showed a couple of people who knew about best ball, they immediately pointed at him and said, what's the 2nd place prize?
Right. And he was drafting from the 12 spot in your league. You guys were next.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, well, it's a pair of socks that I went on the air and said that I wouldn't take if I got them. So
I forgot.
It all worked out in the end, man.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Farrell has to set who. Okay. So Davis Maddock, Daniel Amato, Darren Armani, Josh Hayes, Stephen Fox, I think that's Roy Parenzuela, and Ryan Kramer and Sean Green, all getting socks courtesy of Farrell Elliott. We're putting that on wax right now. So Farrell knows who he has to send these socks to for the runner-up prizes in all 7 leagues. Okay. You said you got some tips about balance, about I assume bye weeks probably went into this as well. Yeah. Was there one thing when you were drafting this team that you had in the front of or even the back of your mind that you normally don't in managed leagues? What was that?
So first I'm going to talk about something that I always do, which is I avoid guys that I think are going to get injured or that have a bad injury history. So that was one thing that I always live by. Like I think you asked me on the interview about Christian McCaffrey, and I said, great player, but I just never want him on my team because of his history. And when you have a team that gets injured, there's no fun in it. I actually had one of my main event teams that 4 of my top 6 picks were out for the season. Oh. So, and that happens. And in this specific instance, I feel like fantasy football is a little bit like poker. There's a skill to it. And if you play with people all the time that you're better than in the long run, you'll beat them most of the times. But there's also luck in the cards that you get, whether you guys get injured or not, whether the guys you draft behind the guys get injured emerge because those guys get injured. And not that I'm not going to take some credit for this, but I was also fortunate. My roster for the most part stayed healthy. So that was also a big thing. But one thing we did talk about that was actually part of my strategy was I avoided rookies. Like I'm very big on watching. Like, I do my research, but most of my decisions are based on the fact that I watch so much football that I see guys with my eyes and I judge them by my eyes more than their statistics. So that really helps me, I think.
Do you feel like it, Rob, did we talk about this? Do you watch college football at all?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Not nearly as much as pro football, but I do. So to your point with rookies, it's not that I don't know who these guys are. I just believe that until you see these guys at the speed of an NFL game, you can't really judge them. You can't do it. So I'd rather be the guy that passes on somebody than takes 2 or 3 or 4 risks with rookies and then they don't pan out.
Right. Yeah.
So I go for the second, third year guy for the younger players more than I would with a rookie.
And I get it too. And like for anybody who says who's watching this, like says that, well, in order to win, any tournament, you got to have some rookies on, you got to take some shots somewhere. Rob did not have any rookies on this roster, and he beat out 42 pros and 41 Joes in this contest. So it can be done. We know it can be done. Did you take away anything you might have learned from this best ball experience at all, Rob, that if somebody was in a similar position this year as you were last year, never drafted in a best ball tournament before, is there any advice you'd impart to them?
Yeah, the advice for myself is maybe I'm better off doing the best ball draft than the main event draft. So I'm definitely going to participate in a couple of those. But I think you just have to have conviction. I mean, you have to have a plan. You have to stick to your plan. You're going to get thrown some curveballs. I know when I was drafting and I ended up, Mahomes was sitting there at 8 and I knew I wasn't going to get any of his receivers. I kind of panicked a little bit, but I took him anyway because he was the best available. And then I just kind of pivoted back to my main core strategy. And one thing I brought up on the first call is I don't pretend to be smarter than a lot of the pros as far as ranking. So I use a draft tool. And I think anybody who does a draft like this absolutely should use a draft tool because it's very fast paced. And you don't have to pick exactly who they tell you to pick, but you should stay in that little, I call it like the little 10-person slot for the most part until you're drafting for a specific need. So, and the other thing I really loved about best ball is I think one of my biggest weaknesses on a week-to-week basis in the main leagues is deciding who to play.
Yep.
Right? It's very tough. And if I could say it to you and anybody who is out there that controls these things can hear it, one of my biggest gripes with some of these sites is the projections. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to see that a guy is going to get 0.7 touchdowns, right? I would like to see guys go out on a limb and tell us, okay, I think this guy's going to get 32 points this week, and I think this guy's going to get 6. Like, I think a lot of us out there would love to see opinions like that, because we could formulate averages and things like that the way the sites do, and I think that they need to go out on a limb more.
Yeah, I think that that'd be interesting, because not a lot of people do that right now,
Nope.
if anybody. And I would love to see that as well, just to kind of, compare and contrast, especially on a week-to-week basis, how those stack up.
Definitely.
All right, let's get into 2026 here, and I'll bring up the never too early ADP I have in front of me from Fantasy Mojo. Right now, Rob, as I look at this, we have 3 receivers going in the top 5 picks of the draft. Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Do you have a favorite among those 3 players, as far as if you are drafting, let's say you're picking 3rd, and Robinson and Gibbs are off the board, so you're taking a receiver, and you can't say, no, Balky, I'm going to take Trey McBride. That's off the table. You have to take one of these 3 receivers. Who would it be between Chase, Nacua, and Smith and Jigba?
Okay. I'm going to answer who I wouldn't take of the 3. I definitely wouldn't take Chase. And my opinion on that is based on the Bengals need to do something different, right? The Bengals recipe and formula doesn't work. And my guess is that this year they're going to have a little bit of a different strategy, a little bit more running, mixing it up, keeping Joe Burrow safe. I don't think it's going to be drop back and throw the ball 40 times. So, and he also seemed to me to be a little bit lethargic at times this year. Like the first couple of games, he was shut down. And so I don't love him going into next year. The other 2 guys, what makes it so difficult is they're both great. They both have tremendous volume. To me, it's the 2 best receivers in the game, and their situations shouldn't change much, right?
Right.
The teams are going to go at it the same way. There's not a tremendous amount of competition at wide receiver, really, on each team. I guess maybe Devontae Adams, but Puka's going to get his 12 to 15 targets. I'll give you the answer. My answer would be Puka, but it's very close.
See, now, when we were talking about injuries, the first guy I thought you were going to eliminate was Nacua, because of how this guy does not have any regard for his own body, the way he plays the game. We love that, but we also kind of are irritated by that too, because he does have these random injuries that will just knock him out. Now, we haven't seen that necessarily from Smith and Jigba. Yeah, I don't recall seeing it from Chase, but you like Nacua best here. I think that's interesting.
I do. And it's a fair thing, because Nacua does get banged up a lot, but he never seems to be the guy that if he can play, he plays.
Yeah.
So
he does play. He plays through a lot. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think he missed 2 games this year, but
yeah,
it's a good point. And Smith and Jigba was, for the most part, healthy this year, and he takes less hits. But Nacua also has a better quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
at least for next year.
And we are assuming, and I think Stafford's coming back. I mean, at least that's how I'm drafting him right now. I'm assuming he's coming back. Okay. Speaking of the Rams, let's stick with them. Over the course of this season, we saw Blake Corum eat more and more into the touches of Kyren Williams. And I'm kind of curious as to what you think is going to happen in 2026. Is this something that continues? Is it something that the Rams just did as the season wore on? If you could look into the Tomasino crystal ball here, what do you envision the touches looking like in the Rams backfield between Williams and Corum in 26?
I actually have a strong opinion on this. I think it will look more like the end of the season than the beginning of the season. And I have a bigger concern, because I feel like the Rams lost the playoff game on 2nd down at the 6-yard line when they decided to run the ball and got stuffed in that playoff game. I thought that was kind of the turning point of that drive. I wouldn't even be surprised if they added a little bit of a bigger back on the goal line a little bit. I know what Williams is solid on the goal line, but Blake Corum didn't seem to be too solid on the goal line. So if they don't add a 3rd back, I think it's kind of like a 45-55 in Williams' favor, with Williams getting the goal line touches. But I could see a situation where they bring in, I don't know if it's a rookie or anything like that, but somebody who they could, pound out, 2 yards in a tough situation on the goal line.
Do you go ahead?
No, I'm good. That's good.
Okay, so let me follow up with this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I assume you like Blake Corum's 902 ADP as running back 31 better than Kyron Williams' 404 ADP as running back 18.
Yep. I mean, I could justify Corum in the 9th round. It'll be hard for me to buy in on Kyron Williams in the 4th round because I think he's heading in the other direction at this point.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. And for me, like initially I was going to ask you about Kyron Williams and how you felt about him. And I didn't realize how far FFPC players were letting him tumble. And I think that's right, by the way, to let him slip to the 404. You have guys like Trevion Henderson, Kenneth Walker, Derrick Henry, all going above him right now. So Kyron Williams was a guy. What was he last year, Rob? Like round 2, round 3, somewhere around there? Maybe I missed it.
I think he was in the 2-3 range.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and I don't know his contract situation, but it feels like to me a lot of running backs, when they get into that like 3rd, 4th year and the teams have another running back behind them that is comparable, they don't want that guy to have, end up in a situation where you're having a James Cook hold out to get big bucks at running back. So if they feel like Corum is equal to or just slightly below him and they don't really want to pay Williams a long-term contract, I could see that being part of the equation as well.
He did sign a contract, Kyron Williams did, prior to last season. It was a 3-year deal. I believe it was a 3-year deal. Yeah, 3 years, $33 million, 23 guaranteed. It's an $11.6 million cap hit, $8.9 million dead cap if they let him go prior to the 2026 season. So I don't think they do it then. There's no the dead cap does not exist if they let him go after the 2026 season. So we could be looking at the final year of Kyron Williams before. And then maybe it's the Blake Corum. Remember, they drafted Jarquez Hunter last year. Maybe it's the Corum and Hunter show. And then to your point, maybe they do bring in a bigger, inside the 2 type running back to handle the short yardage situation. So something to be watching for there. And by the way, a lot could change with the Rams after this season too. Like they could fizzle out. Adams could start showing his age. Stafford could start showing his age. And the Rams could look radically different too.
Definitely. And if they lose Stafford, they may not want to pay Kyron Williams.
That's a great point as well. They could blow it up at that point.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison, we talked about him earlier. You took him at the 402 in Pros versus Joes. I honestly don't know how you feel about him going into this season. Obviously, Arizona has not hired a head coach, which means they don't have an offensive coordinator. And quite frankly, we don't know what's going on at the quarterback situation right now. But FFPC players are drafting right now. They have to take a stand on Marvin Harrison. Rob, if you were drafting at this point, and I know that's way out of your comfort zone and you wouldn't do it normally, but if I'm putting you on the clock, if I'm putting you in a draft right now, how are you handling Marvin Harrison for this season?
I think for me, I'll give you 2 answers. For me, he's a stay away. Concussions this year and a heel injury, which is usually plantar fasciitis. That's a bad injury for a receiver. So those 2 things concern me, especially also the concussions, because you have a shelf life when you start to get too many. And then the other thing is all the uncertainty, like you said. I don't even know how – I mean, Trey McBride was amazing this year, right? Great player, tons of targets. But again, Arizona's scheme is going to be completely different. At the end of the year, it was like a fantasy dream. You had Jacoby Brissett dropping back 50 times. They had no defense. Everybody was getting, 10, 11 targets. If they play an offense like that and Marvin Harrison is involved in it, then obviously it's something to consider. But I don't see that. And I think with Michael Wilson emerging, and I don't know what his contract status is, but you can't ignore how good he was. Mm-hmm. So you have McBride, you have Michael Wilson, you have Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison is a great talent, but I'm not convinced it's going to convert into a high-end NFL career at this point until a couple things change. So I would avoid him.
So a couple of things here. Michael Wilson is under contract this year. It's a very modest contract. Would not surprise me at all to see Arizona tear that up and extend him. They could do that. They might not do that. But this is a contract year for Wilson. Now, let me throw this pepper in the gumbo. Right now, Marvin Harrison, as far as his ADP goes in the Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament, he has fallen. You think about where he was his rookie year. He was like a second-round pick. Last year, he was like a fourth-round pick, right? This year, he has tumbled all the way to the middle of the 7th round. That's where Marvin Harrison is going right now, Rob. He is behind Christian Watson, rookies Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson. He's behind Brian Thomas, Emeka Egbuka, who fizzled at the end of last year. All those players are going ahead of him right now. I know you said stay away, but if I can get Marvin Harrison potentially as my 4th wide receiver in the mid-7th round, would you consider that at all when you consider that, hey, maybe the risk that was much higher in his rookie year and his sophomore year, not nearly as high his 3rd year in the NFL?
No, and in the 7th round, it's a risk, but I think to answer your question, it depends on who the quarterback is. If it's Jacoby Brissett, I would consider it. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be. And also the coach is a factor. But again, the concussions, the heel, the other targets, I don't know. I think I would pass unless it could be a situation where I'm looking around. I don't like anybody else, so maybe I would take him. But I don't think I would.
Yeah, it's funny because he is wide receiver 34. The aforementioned Michael Wilson is wide receiver 36. So if you don't like Harrison in the mid-7th, you could take Michael Wilson there instead. His ADP is at 801 right now. So he's basically going a half round after Harrison. Yeah. And quite frankly, if you're out on Harrison, maybe you should be in on Wilson. But we got to figure out the quarterback situation. You're right. There's a lot to unpack there. All right, let's move on to a guy who is a free agent right now, David Njoku. And obviously it's weird because he was saying when his name was rumored to be when he was rumored to be traded at the trade deadline last year, he said, I want to stay in Cleveland. It was a weird take to have for him, knowing he's not winning a championship there. And he fell behind Harold Fannin on the depth chart there as well. He is being drafted as tight end 24 in the 13th round right now. This is behind guys like Isaiah Likely, Max Clare, and Travis Kelce are all going ahead of him right now. I'm going to be honest with you. I think David Njoku has the talent to be a top 12 tight end in the NFL, fantasy tight end in the NFL. And I do believe that he will be signed by somebody who is going to make him at least the 1A on their team. And for me to see in a tight end premium format, David Njoku going at the 1302 as tight end 24, I just think that is letting him slip way too far. I love Njoku for my second tight end if I was drafting in this tournament, Rob. And I'll tell you, as soon as he signs with somebody, that ADP is going to go way up. I love the idea of getting him now at this price. How do you feel about him?
So first of all, I draft him in the 5th round in the best ball draft because I usually, going into this season, I've loved him. He's gotten a lot of targets. He gets a lot of catches. Obviously, the 1.5 premium on the tight end. But he might be the one guy that my opinion polarized the most this year because I saw a guy that was 29 that looks 49 at this point. And it could be just because his knee was injured most of the time and he was playing through injuries. But he's like a big, thick guy. You know, he kind of lumbers around and kind of finds open spots in the zone. I don't know. Like he became a guy that blocks and turns around and catches the ball at the end of the season. And I think if he ends up in a good situation, like you said, and he's still in that 11, 12, 10 round, he's definitely worth a shot because he's had great seasons. But I'm kind of in disagreement with you on him.
Yeah, I will say this. I would not draft him as my starter, but when you're talking about 20 tight ends off the board, and you could be right, by the way, for like that just injuries might be catching up with him, and he's just not going to be, the guy we were hoping to see without Harold Fannin on his team. You could definitely be right about that. But for me, the risk does not outweigh the reward at this price. Now, if he starts shooting up, then yeah, maybe I'm going to get away from him. But right now, at this moment in time, I am in on him. I get why you're not, and you make a lot of sense as far as that goes, for sure. Now,
but you make a lot of sense too, because a big part of fantasy football drafting is if you think the reward outweighs the risk.
Right, exactly.
Right? So I understand your position too. I just don't like him anymore.
Right. There's a player that's actually going quite a bit higher in the Never Too Early tournament right now than David Njoku, but it's actually quite a bit later than where he's going last year. Saquon Barkley right now, Rob, has fallen from, where was he going last year? Like sometimes top 3, top 4. I know I took him at the 103 in a bunch of drafts. He's going at the 211 right now. And to me, this is a little bit too much of a knee-jerk reaction. Anybody will tell you, or at least I don't know if anybody will tell you, I will tell you this, that the injury and the workload were concerns for me this year, but they were secondary to the fact that I thought there's no way that this dude busts out all these monster plays, these big plays, these huge explosive plays last year. No way does he do that again this year. And he didn't, but he did stay healthy for the most part. And yeah, I know he's a year older right now, but how many times were we ripping Kevin Patullo as the offensive coordinator, just with the creativity of a toenail, not getting his players in positions to make plays the way that Kellen Moore was doing it back in 2024. I think FFPC players are letting him slip too far. He's running back 11 right now. Love the idea of taking a receiver if you have one of those picks early in the first round, Nakua, Chase, Smith and Jigba or whatever, and then you can come back and get Saquon Barkley at the end of the second. I really like that, and I think that's a winning strategy this year. But I'll ask you, how do you feel about Saquon Barkley at the end of the second round?
So I had some Barkley this year, and it was definitely a different player. Even though, obviously the play calling wasn't great, it didn't seem like the offensive line was as good this year. When you draft him, you're really not going to get any touchdowns inside the 2-yard line. So that's a little bit of an issue. But he, you said he didn't get injured, and he really toughed. He played every game, but there was a point about halfway through the season where he tweaked his groin. I think he might have missed one game, or there was like a bye week in between. I felt like he wasn't the same player when he came back. So the jury's out for me on him, but obviously if I can get him at the end of the second round instead of the first round, I think it could be rewarding. And again, like you said, it depends on who comes in and calls the plays, if they keep their offensive line intact.
Yeah.
It's a really tough one because he didn't look like the same player. And a lot of times they brought in Tank Bigsby, and Tank Bigsby ran for 15 yards, and he looked quicker than him, which is strange. So,
what was weird to me, Rob, with Bigsby, it seemed like every time Bigsby was in there, he looked really good. Whether it was a game that Barkley missed, didn't he skip the Week 18 game? I feel like the Eagles really didn't play their starters.
Yeah, he did.
And Bigsby looked really good. When he had the groin issue in October and Bigsby came in, he looked really good. And I'm like, God, this guy was so good. Why don't they put him in more? I didn't understand why. I mean, you're keeping Barkley fresher with Bigsby getting more of the touches. I didn't understand that at all, because I'm with you. Bigsby looked good.
And there was another factor, too, that I just thought of. Like, last year, I think Jalen Hurts was much more of a risk to run the ball than he was this year. It didn't seem like they used him a lot running the ball on the read option. So I think defenses overplayed Barkley a little bit. And I don't see that changing. I think they did that a little bit because Jalen Hurts kept getting hurt on his ankles and stuff last year. And I know he ended up being great, but in the playoffs. But, Bigsby looked good, and Barkley, for the most part, didn't. So it would have to be a bounce back situation, but I could see it.
Yeah. For that, the tumble on the ADP, I think it definitely has my eyebrow raised to look at him right there. Okay, I want to get to this here. I know it's early. You are decompressing. You are in off-season mode. But if you were drafting right now, and quite frankly, you've planted some flags already on players that you like and that you don't like. I think about Marvin Harrison, David Njoku, two guys that you are definitely out on. Is there another player that you can share with us that you think you're going to be out on this year, as well as a player that you think you're going to have a bunch of shares of?
I'm going to give you a couple of guys. So the biggest mystery to me this year was Ladd McConkey.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened to Ladd McConkey? I mean, he coming into the draft this season, he looked like a can't miss, 100 catches, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, and he did nothing. Nothing. He was like a mystery. So I'm out on him. DJ Moore, again, I don't know what his contract situation is, but there's a lot of emerging weapons in Chicago, and I'll get to that on the other side. So I think I'm out on him. And then Cortland Sutton, same thing. I think I'm out on Cortland Sutton.
Okay. So just real quick, with DJ Moore, I can't remember where I read this or I heard it. It's going to be very difficult for them to cut him. They would have to find a trade partner if he's not on the team. If they don't, I'm with you. That looks like Loveland and Burden and probably Odunze, who shouldn't be dealing with this nasty foot injury that he was playing through. And I don't know where that leaves DJ Moore, but probably not on my fantasy team. I don't know if I want to that guy. Curiously, what don't you like about Sutton?
He wasn't consistent this year, and I feel like Franklin, Nick's like throwing to Franklin a lot, and Sutton just didn't put up the numbers that he normally puts up in fantasy. And I don't know, he didn't look like the same player as he was last year. And last year he scored a lot of touchdowns that really boosted his value, but I don't know. I'm just down on him a little bit going into next year.
Is there a player that you're really liking the way things are going for him right now, and you want to grab in a bunch of drafts?
Oh yeah. So getting back to my Bengals point, I love Chase Brown for next year. I think they have to run the ball more. I think he's a huge weapon in the passing game. I think what everybody expected to happen this year is going to happen next year for him, and it did kind of later on in the season.
Are you concerned at all about them bringing in another running back that would decrease his volume at all?
No, because even towards the end of the season, what's the other guy's name? 34, the guy who was on Denver. He took
Samaje Perine.
Yeah, Samaje Perine. He took a lot of carries from him towards the end also, and Chase Brown was still putting up good numbers. So I'm not overly worried about that. I think he'll get the lion's share no matter who comes in, but I think he's a great talent. How about Kenny Walker? I mean, if Zach Charbonnet is not going to be back, he's like tackling a refrigerator, that guy. So, I mean, he's showed off, even though his numbers haven't been great the last two playoff games, or at least one of the playoff games, he still is a great talent, and he's never really had a lot of volume. So if they're willing to give him the volume with Charbonnet being out, tremendous upside for him. One guy who I know is going to be way overdrafted, in my opinion, but I think he's still going to be very good, is Omarion Hampton, right? I'm reading that he's going in the first round, like 7, 8 in that range. There's no way I'm touching him that early. And then I know I don't talk about rookies, but one guy who I feel like is going to be a can't miss running back rookie is Jeremiah Love. He's great. He can catch passes. He's elusive. He'll probably end up like on the Saints or something. I think they get rid of Kamara if they grab him, and that team will be one of those fantasy teams that'll a lot of their running backs will put up a lot of points. They'll be shootouts. They'll be losing games. I love him if he goes to the Saints.
Interesting that you mention all these running backs because Omarion Hampton, Jeremiah Love, and Chase Brown all going as right next to each other in the Never Too Early draft right now, Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament. Running back 8, running back 9, running back 10 at the 206, the 208, and the 210 in order. Hampton, Love, and Brown. So fascinating stuff there. For anybody who's pontificating what to do in the mid to late second round, Rob Tomasino just gave you the blueprint on how to handle those.
And I didn't know any of that information before I answered.
Right, yeah, that's what makes it so weird, which is great.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some news here around the NFL in Fantasy Flash. NFL Network's Mike Garafolo, Rob, has reported new Bills head coach Joe Brady will retain offensive play calling duties. The last 2 years, he was the OC for Buffalo. He got the interim offensive coordinator job back in 2023. The Bills have promoted him from offensive coordinator to head coach, and he's going to be calling plays still. Now, it seemed like Buffalo wanted to make some changes here after they had parted ways with Sean McDermott, yet they kept Brandon Beane as GM. They're keeping Joe Brady on not only as play caller, but now head coach. Brady's offenses were top 3 in EPA per play last year and the year before. Now they have to figure out, who the OC is going to be, who the defensive play caller is going to be. I get that. But what do you make about this Bills offense that maybe is going to be more it's going to be more similar than different compared to what we thought it was going to be after they let McDermott go? Maybe we're going to get more of the same for Josh Allen, James Cook, and the like here in Buffalo in 26, Rob.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I'm not a Buffalo fan, but I think they just needed a new voice. I don't think Sean McDermott was a bad coach. I think he made one of the worst decisions in championship game history by not squib kicking the kickoff, but we'll get past that. The bottom line is Buffalo didn't lose because of their offense. They lost because of their personnel on offense and their defense. So they obviously need to add a good wide receiver. That should be their number one priority, right? Which obviously will help a guy like Josh Allen. Cook is great. They have depth at running back. I don't think there was an issue with the play calling, so I'm good with that. But their problems to me are on stopping the run, and they need a new voice. And I think I like Sean McDermott, but I think it's a great idea to have familiarity with Allen, run it back, and just change the head face calling everything. So I like it. I'm all in on it.
Theo Greminger from Fantasy Points brought this up, and ever since he said it, I can't get it out of my head. Mike Evans is a free agent, and he's probably a Tampa lifer, but let's just say he's not, because they have McMillan, they have Igbuka, they have Godwin there, right? What if Evans decides that he's going to sign with the Bills, because he'd be the number one guy there, and Josh Allen and Mike Evans on the same team? That would be something. As long as Evans stays healthy. He's 32 years old, not a spring chicken anymore. But in my head, it sounds fun. And we'll see what happens with that, with Evans going forward. But I'm with you. Bills need a wideout. Brian Daboll back in the NFL after he was fired in the middle of this season as head coach of the Giants. He's now the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. This news brought to us by Nashville recording artist Shelly Roll, who broke this news on X earlier this week, which is wild to me. But Brian Daboll was thought to be in the running for the Raiders head coach job. He is not going to be that anymore. He's going to be the OC for Cam Ward, for Shamir DK, Tony Pollard, Tyjae Spears, Chiga Conquo, probably not Calvin Ridley. I would imagine he's going off that team. But when you think about the Titans with Cam Ward, they have a boatload of cap space. Say what you will about Brian Daboll, but he's coordinated some pretty good offense in the past. I really like this for Tennessee. How are you seeing this, Rob?
Yeah, maybe Calvin Ridley will end up on Buffalo.
Who knows?
Yeah. So I like Brian Daboll. I mean, I'm a New York guy. He didn't do a great job coaching the Giants, obviously, but it seemed like he did okay with Dart and the offense this year. He has a good history in Buffalo. I think he'll help the Titans, but there's not a lot of fantasy excitement around that team, really, in my opinion. I mean, I know some of these guys are very young. Okonkwo emerged a little bit this year, but he doesn't excite me. DK is a great punt returner, emerged a little bit as a receiver. I think it'll help Cam Ward a lot.
Yeah.
So he's what I would call draftable, right? I don't know where's he going. Probably 12th round.
Yeah. In the never too early best ball tournament, he is a 13th round pick as quarterback 25.
Right. So that sounds right. Tony Pollard should be solid. I mean, he had a good year a little bit this year. I mean, he didn't have every game good, but he had some good games. I like him. It's a good move for the organization. I'm just not overly excited about any Titans.
Yeah, I as it stands right now, I'm with you. We'll see what happens, because as much as we want to get weapons to Tennessee, at the same time, I don't know what weapons are going to be available. Nobody really wows me in this rookie year class. The wide receivers in free agency, you're talking about Alec Pierce maybe being the best one, and I don't know if he's a real difference maker for Cam Ward. So I don't know. It's fun to think about in our heads right now with Daboll there, but I think this might be more fool's gold than we'll see. Fernando Ramirez posted this on X earlier this week, Rob. Mike McDaniel is the new offensive coordinator for the Chargers. He said Justin Herbert, quote, hasn't neared the ceiling of what he was capable of. He said he was going to rein in Justin Herbert a little bit. The quote from him stated, I think not relying too heavily on Justin's ability to do above and beyond, I think, is critical. That'll be one of the first things that we'll try to do is take a little off his plate. So, to me, that sounds like he'll be running less, and maybe Marion Hampton will be running more, I would imagine here. McDaniel's going to have some weapons to utilize. And Trey Harris, probably not Keenan. Quentin Johnston, Matt McDaniel, talking about Rondé Yad Thompson. Is talking about here he really likes Amarian Hampton and McDaniel as the new OC. What do you make of the Chargers? Are there any Chargers that you think are specifically going to benefit from Mike McDaniel calling plays?
I think most of them will. Mike McDaniel's a great offensive mind. He's great at getting people into space. Like you look at A-Chain. I don't think A-Chain will be as fantasy relevant next year without McDaniel. I mean, he's a great talent, but he got A-Chain in space all the time. Is Omarion Hampton a guy like A-Chain? If you get him in space, he's a game breaker. I'm not sure. He's big, he's fast, but he'll definitely benefit from that. And you make a great point because they do have a lot of weapons. McConkey, assuming he comes back to what we thought he was going to be. Keenan Allen will probably be gone. But you have Gadsden. You have what's the other receiver?
Johnston?
Right.
Oh, Trey Harris. Trey Harris, right?
Trey Harris, Quentin Johnson. And then obviously Herbert.
Yeah.
It was interesting because last year Harbaugh said the opposite, right? We're going to put more on Herbert's shoulders, and now they're saying we're going to put less on Herbert's shoulders. So who knows? And I think Herbert's problem towards the end was he was injured. Yeah. I mean, no matter what you say, when your left hand is broken and you got hit a million times, it's a tough situation, and he can't play in the playoffs for some reason. So I don't know.
You know, the other thing too that we didn't bring up with is they were missing 2 Pro Bowl tackles for basically the entire season.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
true.
Obliterated their offensive line, and that was another big reason that Herbert got so injured is because he was constantly being attacked by these defensive linemen, and they didn't have the offensive line to protect them.
And that's a great point. Assuming their 2 bookends come back healthy, their defense was strong. They got a great coaching staff. If Herbert steps it up a notch and he could actually play in the playoffs, they're a dangerous team to go far next year because the AFC is not that great either.
One of the teams that made the playoffs in the not-so-great AFC this year was Pittsburgh, and they still had to replace the head coach, Mike Tomlin, who walked away. Who did they replace him with? The guy that beat them in the Super Bowl with the Packers. It's Mike McCarthy, who said he's going to be calling plays this year for the Steelers. Mike DeFabo posting this on X. This is no big surprise here. I know that McCarthy was a pretty good play caller both in Green Bay and in Dallas. We don't know who the OC is. Maybe it's going to be overrated. Whoever the OC is obviously going to be more of a figurehead because Mike McCarthy is going to be running the show. We also don't know who the quarterback is. I think McCarthy would like to see Aaron Rodgers come back. They did not exactly part in the best way in Green Bay, so I don't know if that's going to happen. There are a few offers that I want to write off at this point of the season. But if there was one, I really don't think I feel all that great about anybody in Pittsburgh right now, not only because of the dearth of talent there, but because of the changeover in offensive scheme and leadership. How do you feel about the Steelers right now, Rob?
So I'm a huge Steelers fan my whole life. So I'm very close to this one. First of all, Mike Tomlin had to go. I'll get to that a little bit later if I have an opportunity. But I really was just happy that Tomlin had finally given up, so to speak. You know, he finally resigned. The fans didn't want him anymore. Who came next really didn't matter so much to me because I don't think they're going to be good regardless. Mike McCarthy was a surprise to me, but I guess it's okay. I mean, they have some good players on offense, but like you said, it depends on the quarterback.
Right.
I mean, DK Metcalf is a nice player when he actually catches the ball and doesn't punch fans. But, you know, that kind of ruined their season this year. So, you know, I like Jalen Warren. The tight ends, you know, obviously Frymuth didn't get utilized as much. They're not great on the offensive line. It feels a lot like a rebuild, no matter who the quarterback is, but it won't be called a rebuild if it's Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they have to have personnel changes on the offense because you can't go in with the same receivers. So either they're going to draft a high-end rookie, or they're going to, you know, try to get somebody, you know, Alec Pierce or somebody along those lines, which is not really overly exciting. But you're right. There's nobody that's really fantasy exciting for me next year on the team.
The top 2 Steelers that are being drafted in the Never Too Early tournament both come in the 7th round. DK Metcalf at the 702, Jalen Warren at the 706. You can actually get Jalen Warren as running back 26. I think I might be in on that price. Like a high-end third running back. Metcalf, I don't know if I can. If Rodgers comes back, okay, maybe I can make a case for Metcalf there as a wide receiver that's being selected out of the top 30. But, you know, he had a lot of career lows this past year at Rodgers, so you have to understand that too. And I just think the tight ends cannibalize each other. With Frymuth and Washington and Jimmy Smith, it's so difficult to pick one of those 3 guys. They're all talented, but for fantasy standpoint, I just don't know who the tight end is week to week.
And if you bring Rodgers back, you're going to have to keep the tight ends in to block because the guy can't move. So.
Yeah, that's another great point too. Although Darnell Washington is like having another tackle out there who can also catch the ball, which is kind of nice. Kind of what Pittsburgh needs.
The other interesting thing is what happens with Gainwell. I mean, I know he's a free agent, but he was fantastic. So if he doesn't come back, it ups Jalen Warren's stock definitely. If you feel like they're going to have a decent offense.
Yeah, and I do like I would like Gainwell's actually going he's not going until the 13th round. I think that's a nice value because even if he doesn't come back to Pittsburgh, you know somebody is going to sign him and utilize him at least to close to what he was doing at the end of the season with the Steelers last year. So I like that buy
without question
for Gainwell. Yeah. All right, now I want to end the show because we're almost out of time, but I want to end the show with something you suggested to me, and I think that, and I'll let you kind of set this up, but this is a segment we're going to call "If You Actually Watch Football," because it seems to me, Rob, you heard and read a lot of stuff from people out there this year who are paid to be pundits of the NFL or fantasy football analysts. And some of this stuff stuck out like a sore thumb that it's clear to you certain things you heard and read were not written or said by people who actually watch football.
Thank you for that lead-in. And I've really enjoyed this experience. And this will be my favorite part of it because one thing, anybody who knows me is I love to rant about football. Anybody who will listen, I'll talk to all day. So it drives me crazy. And I'm going to start off with, if you actually watch football, and you wouldn't be saying that the Buffalo Bills are going to win the Super Bowl this year because it's Josh Allen's time because Patrick Mahomes is gone, and there's no Joe Burrow. Because if you watch football, you know that a team from the AFC is not going to win the Super Bowl. And the Bills had no defense. They couldn't win on the road. And it just wasn't going to be Josh Allen's time either way. Even if they got past Denver, they weren't going to win the Super Bowl. So it drove me crazy to listen to people say that.
It is. I think it's one of those talking points where you're excited for if you're a Bills fan, because as you mentioned, no Burrow, no Mahomes, no Jackson. You think about that narrative in your head. Hey, that sounds great. And then you look at their rush defense, and it's like, how is this team going to win a Super Bowl when they just absolutely hemorrhage rushing yards? You knew it wasn't going to happen. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. If you actually watch football, you would know that Mike Tomlin had to go. Okay. Now this one's very close to my heart. Mm-hmm. The Steelers played 4 home games this year against Seattle, the Packers, the Bills, and the Texans. And one thing that you can very much judge a coach by is halftime adjustments. Seattle, they're up 14-7. They lose 31-17. Packers, they're up 16-7. They lose 35-25. Bills, they're up 7-3. They lose 26-7. Texans in the playoff game, they're down 7-6. They lose 30-6. Any Steeler fan listening to this is going to imagine Donnell Hunter running over our right tackle 5 or 6 plays in a row in the first half, and no adjustments were made to chip him, keep a tight end in. And the same thing happened in the Bills game. That's how the Bills game changed on a sack fumble. He had to go. I have nightmares about 3rd and 7 and Julian Edelman running out 8 yards and getting a first down and converting every third down through all those years where the Steelers could have been winning Super Bowls and New England beating them when they were underdog. He played that vanilla zone defense for 19 years. He never made adjustments. He had the killer bees. If Belichick and Tomlin switched teams, the Steelers would have had 2 more Super Bowls, in my opinion. Easily.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Mike Tomlin, nice guy, good riddance. Next thing, and this is to the NFL coaches. A timeout called under 2 minutes and 45 seconds at the end of the game as your last timeout is a wasted timeout. I can't understand how these coaches could do this. The next play is going to take more than 5 seconds. It's going to run down to the 2-minute warning. Maybe some of these coaches need to watch football. Kevin Stefanski deserved to be fired. The handling of Shedeur Sanders was a joke, no matter whether you like Shedeur Sanders or not. Let's play 5'9" Dylan Gabriel, who can't see over the line and has no talent. Shedeur Sanders, though you may not like him, I like him. He had some good plays. I know he had a lot of turnovers, but so do people like Brett Favre early in their career. Yeah. I think he has a lot of upside, and I can't even believe that they played Dylan Gabriel over him. It was a travesty.
Shedeur Sanders is a Pro Bowler, too.
Oh, forget about that. You never kick a field goal at the end of the game in around 2 minutes to go up 6 points, ever, especially in college. You look at the Indiana game, the coach was lucky. He gets a lot of credit. He's a great coach. When you do that, you give the team 4 downs to go down the field and beat you instead of 3 downs to go down the field and tie you. It makes no sense. Go for the win, play it out. Terrible decision to kick a field goal to go up 6 at any point when there's enough time on the clock. Jerry Jones might just end up being right. Anything he says or does is scrutinized. But give me an owner that wants to win any day of the week and twice on Sunday, and I'll take it all the time.
Sure.
They have 2 first-round draft picks this year. They have a ton of talent coming back. I know their defense is weak. I would never pay a defensive player $50 million a year against a salary cap. It just doesn't make sense. Every Dallas fan will tell you that he's the problem. I don't see it. I think that they could be a surprise next year. I definitely think that they could do well.
The Cowboys, too, have the opportunity to bring back Javonte Williams on a deal that would really solidify that backfield. And they could franchise Pickens or lock him up for 4 or 5 year deal.
Right.
And with Prescott throwing to Lamb and Pickens and having Ferguson, man, you add another offensive line and in that
2 first-round picks.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Right.
Dallas is looking pretty good then.
And then, just a couple more. I know we're up against the clock. When is the NFL going to address these buzz downs, right? When can you buzz down and when can't you buzz down? Does it depend on which team is playing and which team is not playing? It's ridiculous. It's a conspiracy. Fans think it's fixed. It's terrible. The NFL's got to come out, explain it to the fans. This is what we could buzz in on. This is what we can't buzz in on. Yeah. You should be able to buzz in when a guy's face mask gets ripped off his face and the refs miss it. And you shouldn't be able to buzz down when there's an illegal formation like they did in the Lions-Chiefs game after a commercial, I think, to take away a touchdown.
Yeah, that's right.
So the NFL's got to listen. They got to get it right. Teams at the end of the game, you got to stop trying to run out the clock. You got to stay aggressive. That's how these teams lose. They try to run the ball 3 times into the line. What made Bill Parcells special, 1st and 10, he ran a lot of play action, dumped to the tight end, 7 yards, and then you have 2 plays to get 3 yards, and he always ran the clock out. Stop being so conservative. And then the last thing is my Super Bowl pick.
Oh yeah.
I don't even think it's close. New England's had a nice season. They're the AFC representative of a bad AFC. They might hang in the game a little bit defensively. If they're smart, they'll blitz Sam Darnold every other play, which I think the Rams should have done, and they didn't do enough. But I see it being like a 34-31 13 type of game. Seattle all the way.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's Seattle. I don't know if I'm going to say it's that much, but certainly I could see that happening for sure. Last thing, speaking of the Patriots, do you have any words of wisdom on the Bill Belichick snub by the Pro Football Hall of Fame voters?
Yeah. So when I first heard it this morning, I reacted like everybody else. I can't believe it. Who didn't vote for him? I that's ridiculous. But the one thing I will bring up is when you cheat in life, there's consequences. And I'm not saying it's right. I would have voted for him, but I understand the people that wanted to make send a message and say, yep, you're great. You're going to get in next year, but we don't want to give you that extreme honor of getting in on the first year ballot because everybody knows that you cheated. And some people believe in, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. But I just don't like what they did. And I'm okay with it only for that reason.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. There's a lot of people weighing in. It's a charged topic right now. We probably haven't heard the end of it for sure. Pro Football Hall of Fame releasing a statement saying that if bylaws were violated by voters, they won't be voters anymore. So I think there's more to come on this story for sure. Certainly more to come on the evolution, the story of the evolution of Rob Tomasino, Best Ball Dynamo. Never drafted a best ball team before. Wins Pros versus Joes on his first one. Fantastic. I'm sure I'll have you back on this show when you are winning some of these best ball tournaments the FFPC has. You may just have it. Maybe you phoned your calling and you didn't realize it was your calling.
Right.
Thank you so much for co-hosting. I appreciate all the insight you brought to the table, and I look forward to speaking with you again sometime very soon. Enjoy the Super Bowl, my friend.
You too, Eric. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful for me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll talk with you soon. You got it. That is Rob Tomasino, the Pros versus Joes champion from 2025. That's going to do it for our show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Rob Tomasino, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you. Reminder at the FFPC, Dynasty and Empire Orphan teams are available starting at $1. They go up. The leagues are $77 up to $5,000. Many of those Dynasty teams are discounted right now, so check them out. myffpc.com. Play fantasy football 365 days a year. The Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament and the Never Too Early Superflex Best Ball Tournament feature $40,000 and $10,000 grand prizes, respectively. Join the Never Too Early tournament for $125 or join the Superflex Never Too Early for $35. Those tournaments are ongoing now, and they will close at the start of the NFL draft coming up in April. FFPC Big Gorilla is back. So is the 7 Bananas promo with it. So is the early Rampage tournament. If you're joining it right now, you're getting into 2 tournaments for the price of one $350 entry fee. You'll be eligible for $1 million grand prize, as well as the $25,000 grand prize in the early Rampage. And for the first time ever, the FFPC Baby Gorilla. $125 to enter, $100,000 grand prize. If you've been thinking about playing in some of the big tournaments with the FFPC, you want to manage your team all year long, this is the stepping stone you're looking for. The Baby Gorilla, now available at myffpc.com. Don't forget, kffsc.com is your home for 2026 Super Sunday drafts. All of them are filled except for the I Want Vegas one. You do have the opportunity to draft that league online. It is 3:15 on Sunday. I should have mentioned the slant. The winner is going to get a main event with the KFFSC pays for your FFPC main event team, as well as airfare and hotel accommodations out at, I believe it's hotel accommodations as well. I'll have to check with Farrell on that. But I won this league a couple of times back in the day and had to give my FFPC entry away, but I still took the trip out to Vegas for sure. That draft is Super Bowl Sunday, 3:15 p.m. Eastern time. You can draft it online. You don't have to be live with the rest of us at the Laurel Lounge at Caesars Casino watching the Super Bowl and drafting a bunch of fantasy teams as well. Now, as far as podcasts go this week, the HSFF Hour will return again next Wednesday. No Friday show next week because I'll obviously be in Kentucky drafting teams at the Super Bowl with Farrell and everybody else at the KFFSC. So next Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be speaking with the Big Gorilla Early Rampage champion from 2025, Tommy Herron, who is no stranger to this show. He returns to talk about how he won that that tournament and how his teams are looking so far this year. That is next week's HSFF Hour. On Tuesday next week, we will kick off season 11 of the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. It'll be myself and another special guest. That's at 10 p.m. Eastern Time next Tuesday. This Thursday, so tomorrow, we will have insider access on the Better Sports Network as well as the FFPC socials with player profilers Dan Fornek. We'll get into some best ball ADP values. We'll also talk Dynasty with Dan as well. That is going to be this Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's the only other show we have this week, and then a full show, slate of shows next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be tomorrow night for 2 full hours at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on FFPC Insider Access on the Better Sports Network with player profilers Dan Fornek and myself. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your early weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Farrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
If you actually watch football, what a great segment from Rob Tomasino tonight. He came up with that himself. I really enjoyed it. Maybe we'll do this again with myself and Farrell and some future guests. I don't know what's going to happen with that. What I do know is this show will be back live next Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you all tomorrow, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Better Sports Network with Dan Fornek and yours truly. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Be safe and enjoy your week.